Hi, everybody. Welcome to AJD Consulting Podcast. I am so excited because I have a very important topic to discuss. Well, topics, plural, because we have so much to talk about today. And so, based on the title, you know that we are talking about some hard things. And so, again, I'm excited to talk about it because I don't feel like we talk about it enough. Like we have feelings, and sometimes we are unable to articulate them, right? And everyone doesn't have a therapist or can afford a therapist and all those things. And so, what I think is important is just to read as much as possible, ask questions, contact other people who are in or have been in a similar situation as you, and just try to understand what you're going through. And so, the three topics I'm going to talk about today is transitional grief, identity recalibration, and cognitive overload. Okay. You're probably like, whoo, I haven't heard all of that stuff. And so, first and foremost, I want to start off by saying if you are feeling all three at once, one or, each of these individually, please know that nothing is wrong with you. Because you may be like, why am I not able to bounce back as quickly as I normally would? What is going on with me? No, we're going to stop that. Nothing is wrong with you. In fact, you have made a lot of major changes, and that needs to be acknowledged, right? Especially if you're a person like me who is so used to doing a lot of things at once all the time, like literally since I was a kid, right? I did not only just go to school, I also danced and traveled. Then I got into middle school, I did after school activities, I did Saturday school. Like I had regular school Monday through Friday, I did Saturday school, and then I maybe had Sunday off. Like I always did more than just go to school. And so once you're kind of in a phase where things are slowing down and you're getting older and your values change, the things you care about change, you start to, oh, who I will tell y'all who I am in the 30 phase is very different than who I was in my 20s. And that is also a hard thing to grapple with. I am really getting older. I'm so used to being the young one. I'm so used to being I'm just used to a lot of things, right? But life keeps going. No matter how much you want to just to stop, it just keeps going. And I look at my siblings' faces and my nieces and nephews. I feel that way about them too. I remember when they were born and now their ages, and I'm like, where did time go? Like, how did we get here, right? So that's pretty much the same thing that we go through. And so, again, nothing is wrong with you, first and foremost. You may be feeling overwhelmed. And yeah, I have my notes over here. So I'm going to be looking back and forth. So you may feel overwhelmed, right? And please note that, again, if you had any of those three, note that you had a physical change, possibly your daily routine changed, or you never had a routine and now you have a routine, or the routine you had didn't work out, so now you got to find a new one, or you just may have a routine. And it doesn't even have to be a morning routine. It could be a midday, it could be an evening, just a daily routine, right? Your professional identity may have changed. For an example, maybe you used to work 40 hours a week or more, and now you are a stay-at-home mom, or you're now a caretaker. That changes you. It does. You may use some of the previous skills that you had to use at your old job, right? But now the role that I used to have, I'm no longer in that role and I have to see myself as a different person. Not entirely, but again, I like to use examples because I think that helps explain like how I show up as an aunt is not going to be the way I show up as an employee or a business owner. Each role requires a different level of you, a different level of responsibility, communication, understanding, insights, all of that stuff. So that happens. And then your social ecosystem may have changed, right? And so just understand that your nervous system is like, hey, what we doing? We're in survival mode. And so you just have to understand that even when things are good changes, can activate forms of grief because you may have lost your rhythm, you may have lost your sense of independence, or again, that routine, your old structure, all those things, and just all of the familiar places and spaces that are tied to the identity that you built. So Grief doesn't just like only show up when something is bad, but it also shows up when something changes. And I want us to highlight that, right? Because again, we think about grief often as, oh, you just lost a person in the physical realm, right? That is one form of grief, and that is a grief that we are all going to have to experience at some point, but it is a tough grief, especially when you lose people close to you or that you had a really good relationship with. But also, what about grieving the career you thought you were going to have? What about grieving that relationship that you wanted badly? What about grieving some poor decisions that you made? Oh, I shouldn't have spent that money. Like all of that is real. I'm joking, but no, those are real moments of like grief and understanding that, dang, things are changing and I feel a way about it. And that's okay. Like, I want us to be very clear that I am here to validate your feelings and then I want us to move forward. Feel all your feelings, feel them out. I don't care if you have to write in a journal, you have to talk to people, you have to talk to multiple people, you have to talk about it for 2 months. I don't care. Get it out and move forward. That's the best thing that we can do, right? And there also may be bittersweet feelings, right? So you probably imagine your life one way. Okay, when I make this big change, life is going to be like this. You have your expectations, you have your ideals. You just, okay, I'm going to do this and this. But in reality, all those changes, it comes up differently. So I'll use myself as an example. I recently moved, and I thought when I moved, I was going to do this and have this and this. But the reality was, I'm still in school. I am in school in my dissertation phase. So although I thought I was going to be like, oh, yes, do this, I am writing nearly every day. So even that, so you have your imagined and your expectations and then the reality. Like those sometimes are very different. And just accepting that for what it is hard. I'm not saying don't have expectations or want more for yourself or different for yourself. I'm not saying that. But also realize that things change and sometimes things have to work themselves out because, again, I moved. So not only am I going through a transition, everybody around me is going through the transition with me, but from their own perspectives. So we have to remember everything that we do impacts other people. Sometimes I think we forget that. So yes, I moved, but my mom came to help me move. So that was a change in her world, right? Also, I'm having my siblings, they see me more. We had a conversation today where I used to see them between 2 to 3 times a year. This is the most I've seen them since they were born. And I'm thinking, oh, I'm being a good sister. I see my siblings all the time. Like, I'm thinking, okay, yes, I'm living my life in Tampa, but I go back and forth to Texas all the time. 3 times a year. And then I'm like, I haven't been around my parents. Like, not only my siblings, but my parents. And I'm seeing my parents in different phases of their lives as well. Like, when we all lived together, I was a child. I was a young person. Now I'm seeing my parents age a little bit. I'm seeing areas of growth for them, but also areas of like success. And I'm just like, oh, I'm proud of them. Like, I have those moments too, but we're all experiencing it because they get to see me like, that's my daughter, but she's not my little daughter. This is my grown adult daughter who has accomplished a lot, but has also burnt out. So how do they support me as I'm burnt out while writing a dissertation? So everybody is going through it in their own ways, and they may be experiencing other emotions that they haven't even communicated to you, right? So again, I'm always going to share my personal examples to help us like understand and keep going through the conversation. But there's always a gap between the expectation and the reality. And that is what causes that emotional friction. Because again, it is bittersweet. It's, oh, I did this and I thought it was going to be like this, but then, oh no. And then I'm used to this. And then I kind of miss this part and I miss this part, whatever, right? And then again, I have to always bring it back to me because I am the expert in my life, right? And I am achievement driven. Like I love having a goal and crossing it off, completing it. I don't like feeling left behind. I'm so used to executing at a certain level And again, having all of those different relationships and managing different relationships, I'm so used to do all of these things. And I feel like right now my output is so slow. Like even during the month of February, like we all know that's, Black American History Month and Black Future Month. And I'm like, okay, I wanted to publish and produce all of these things for my genealogy business. I wanted to just let this year be, like, I'm posting every day, all 28 days. That did not happen. I started off good, but then I'm realizing, like, I can't keep up with this. And that felt like I'm a loser. I hate to say it so so informally, but I did feel like that. I felt like, girl, like this is still your business. Like businesses don't stop. But then I also have to say, you know what? You are a solopreneur right now. It's okay because I still have value whether I post in February or not. I can still do genealogy courses, webinars, conduct someone's genealogy report outside of February. This doesn't stop, right? And so just like my slow output was a very hard time for me. And then you add that with just feeling, okay, it's compressed. Like I'm in a compressed season. No, I'm not behind because I have accomplished so much. If you would have looked at my goals like September to now, I have pretty much accomplished everything except for two things. And I'm a person, I normally have a minimum of 10 goals. That's me. Like, again, I know myself well. You have to know yourself. Like, my mind is very active. I have to keep it active, right? But I'm also like, I'm not behind because I have accomplished I am almost at 100% here. I'm at 80. I'm closer to 100 than zero. So, like, you have to coach and talk yourself through it and understanding that dissertations, seasons are very isolating. And again, people who are not in a dissertation program or who have not been around other people who have done any form of a dissertation, it is challenging to explain. If you haven't already, please watch my previous podcast episode where I break down my entire dissertation process, but it is very isolating because this is your primary focus and you're at the end of it though. That's the crazy part. Like you're at the end of your doctoral journey. This is the last step. This is the last things you have to do, but it requires so much of your time. Like you're constantly researching, you're constantly writing. And so that extra time you thought you were going to have to spend with family or friends and go on these trips is no, because I have to prioritize writing. And specifically with my dissertation, I have assignments to do with deadlines. It's not just, oh, I'm just gonna free flow. No. If I don't complete all of my assignments and actually get a grade complete, I'm not gonna be able to walk in May. So that's another layer of stress. You're like, oh my gosh, I have to get through. I also in the previous video, I said like I had a thought that I forgot that I wanted to bring up. I just thought about it. And so it's interesting because one of my assignments was so long. Like I thought I was never gonna get done. And I'm like, oh, it's so long. Like I didn't think it was gonna be like this. It's so long, it's so long. And then I realized after I came out of it, I'm like, the fact that I finished that, I could do all these other parts. So now it's excitement again. Cause at first I'm like, I'm ready to give up. I don't know if this is for me. I got other stuff that I want to do anyway that I would love to focus on. Not this. Like with me, I am a person, I have so many options, and I love that I've created that for myself. But also, sometimes it could be my own detriment because if I don't balance it the way I need to, something great could be happening here, and I could just push it to the side because something greater is happening over here. You get me? And so that moment felt like that. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, this degree is amazing. I've worked really hard. I paid a lot of money for it. Great. But I also got something going on. So I have to remind, nope, nope, come back. You've already gotten through the worst part. So with saying that too is that each of my assignments have different lengths. And so there may be some weeks where I'm writing all day, and then there's other weeks where I can pretty much finish my assignment in 2 days. If I do one day just reading and get on my articles, then the next day I write or flip it. Sometimes I write first and just get my thoughts out and then find my articles. That is what I recommend personally because I feel sometimes when you just write, you could just flush it out and then you can find support in because ultimately the purpose of you finding the articles is to support your claims. I don't want to write my paper around what's already written. Does that make sense? So when I'm just writing, I just write my thoughts out, whatever, and then I find articles that support what I'm saying. Versus looking at articles, seeing what's said, and then trying to write because then you start to realize I am writing what they said instead of my own thoughts. And that's where plagiarism comes in. So that's in the tip. I didn't put that in the last video, but I definitely want to put this in. You have to get your thoughts out first. And whoever supports that, cite them, move on. So, saying that. Okay, let's go back to topic. Okay, so now let's get into the boundaries part of everything, right? So, what could go wrong if you don't set boundaries? If you don't protect yourself during any of these times, right? Whether you're writing dissertation, but for me, it's dissertation focus. But whatever your thing is, whatever your big change is, if you don't protect your time, these are the things that could possibly happen. Resentment toward family and friends, like that resentment of y'all are stopping me from accomplishing this. So you don't want that. Again, if you're writing, if you're in school, it doesn't even have to be dissertation. You could be an undergrad and you're watching this. Delayed graduation. You don't want that. Emotional burnout. The guilt, any type of guilt that you have, whether it's oh, I feel guilty for not doing my work. I feel guilty for spending time with my family. I feel guilty for missing out on this. I feel guilty, whatever, right? Also, the damaged friendships from passive frustration. So they may be upset with you, you may be upset with them because they don't understand, like whatever. But then also, there's always two sides of every coin, right? So there's the flip side where if you over isolate, then you may feel lonely, you may feel misunderstood, you may have to interpret your focus, or not you, but people may interpret your focus as rejection. And it's no, I'm not rejecting, like it's not personal. So again, balance, setting boundaries and having balance with them. And so what's most important is you need structure versus emotional boundaries. So, what I mean by that is instead of saying I can't, I'm busy, kind of give more details, right? Say, I am in this phase of my life, I am dedicating this amount of time to it. So, if anything, I will be writing during these times and then I'm available, right? It kind of communicates that it's temporary, it's purposeful, you're not being rejected. There's still access, but it's structured, right? And then this could vary depending on who it is. Like with your family, your boundaries may be different with your family, right? Or if it's with some friends or people you're just getting to know, that also looks different. So, you have to adjust how you communicate. And then let's talk about friends. Friendships may be feeling a little tense. So, whenever you elevate or there's a shift, some friendships can experience some tension simply because the access changes, the availability changes, the emotional labor changes, all of those things. Not everyone can handle your focus season. And that is something that I learned, y'all. Very hard. Like it's hard for me to implement, but it's also hard for me to stick to my guns because again, like I said in my previous video, I always want to be the dependable one there for people and it's no, I can't do that right now. I have to be here for me. And so it's okay to have priorities. Again, whatever your big thing or things are, you have to keep that in mind. That is priority right now. And I've had other conversations with friends. Like I had to tell them, like, I'm sorry, but this trip is not a priority for me right now. Although I love trips, I love to travel. I'm a traveling girl. However, I have assignments, and I'm not going to rush my assignments to have fun right now. Right now, just right now. And I normally don't put off fun. I work hard, but I play harder, way harder than I work. And I work really hard. But right now, that's not my focus. I could play after. And just letting them know I'm not abandoning you. This is temporary. So It's a lot. No matter what your big thing is, create structure. Whether you have writing blocks that are non-negotiable, you have family time, and you treat family time like appointments. I see my siblings on the weekends mostly. I rarely write on the weekends because I'm like, I want to spend time with them. And if I do write, I try to write like in the evenings when everyone's resting or something. I try to write at night or whenever they're not up, I write. When they're awake, I want to be present. And I have that right to choose that. And again, y'all like, AD, I know you talked about some other things. I'm getting to it, baby. This is gonna be a longer session because I have a lot to get off. And again, I want these videos to be as in depth as possible. So for anybody who's in a doctoral program, anybody going through a major change, they can take any of this information and apply it to them and make it work. Also, create like a parking lot list. That may sound crazy, but whenever you start to feel behind or you have mental clutter, just write down ideas. So this can be business related, this can be tasks that you have to complete, this could be any administrative things. So you're not ignoring them necessarily, you're just putting them on like a prioritization list. Like you're trying to prioritize and sequence what's important. So you may not get to all your emails today, but then you're gonna check the urgent emails, right? Whatever that looks like. Okay, let's get down to the identity transition part, right? So some of that overworked and overwhelmed feeling may feel like an identity transition. There are so many things happening, and we have to remember who am I changes in every situation. I remember I was writing a travel blog back in the day, and I was like, who am I when I'm abroad? It's not the same person I am in the United States, right? Or who I was at 20 is not the same person I am at 30. Who I am as a person who has been on their own for a very long time is not the same person I am when I'm around surrounded with community. And so thinking about who am I in this next chapter or in this new chapter, it's very intense simply because I'm adding an extra layer of that with the dissertation, with focusing on that primarily. So I'm already having all these other thoughts of like changes, and now you add this dissertation to it. So it is called transformational discomfort. You're going to work through it, you're going to get through it. It's going to take some time, and you may not bounce back from it as easy as you would have in the past because there are so many more factors and layers, and that's okay, right? So it's important to reframe the season. Again, you're not behind. For me, I am building intellectual equity. For other people, you are building stability. You are building financial wealth. You're breaking generational curses, building generational wealth. You are building a legacy. And so think of it as I am temporarily investing in a legacy credential that will expand how I show up for my family and friends long term. It's not withdrawing, it is expansion. Gentle truth. I cannot be fully available. You cannot be fully available. Especially when you're trying to accomplish something, your focus is required. Even if you are moving, you know how many people like I'm working a lot, like I picked up hours. Like that's isolating as well because your focus is on making enough money so you can, transform your life, right? And understanding that you can maintain all of your friendships and connections, but not at the same level, and that's okay. So, all right. When growth feels heavy, let's go back to transitional grief. I had to kind of get through a lot of that first. Let's go through transitional grief. Let's define it. Transitional grief is the emotional process that happens when something changes, even when the change is positive. Okay? Grief is not only about death, it's about the loss of something that's very familiar. Okay? So, again, we talked about that bittersweet feeling, knowing that multiple emotions can coexist, right? You can feel joy, you can also feel sadness, you can feel excited and nervous, excited and anxious. Like you can feel all the emotions because you only feel those things when something is new, especially like the more not so positive emotions. Those happens when things are new. So you can still be grateful and still grieve at the same time. You can still show growth and still miss what was because everything about your previous life wasn't bad. For most people, there may be some people who are just like, I have to escape and just get a new life, right? It was too much negative over here. But like in my situation, there was a lot of positives, and then there were also a lot of positives of making a transition and focusing. So, yes. But also know that positive change can still disrupt your nervous system. I talked about that earlier, but I really want to emphasize it again because it's new. It's different. When you are in your old life, in your old situation, you have become comfortable. You've learned to cope with it. But now when you make a big change or you're moving, you're going to a new location, you go to a new school, you have a new job, all these things change. So your body's okay, what's going on? And then you talk about again your body and its responses, thinking about the emotional aspects of it. You think about your fatigue, the nostalgia, the feeling off, like something is off. I don't feel like myself because you're no longer that person. There's a sense of nostalgia. Oh, I missed it. And that's fun you can miss, but is it worth going back to when you are trying to improve yourself? So that's what I always think about. And know that transitional grief is not a weakness, it's just adjustment. So, transitional grief is not weakness, it is adjustment. That is so important, right? Especially for those who are high achievers like myself, you are expected to adapt quicker and quickly. Like somebody could throw something at you, you can learn it very fast, right? But now, sometimes adapting takes time. You can bounce back quicker. And so I want to ask my audience, and you can put this down in the comments, what part of your old life are you silently grieving? What part of your life are you silently grieving? And then let's go into identity recalibration. Who am I now? Okay, I know who I was before, but who am I now? This is where we go deeper, right? Because when we think about it, identity is contextual, like I said before with my travel blog. So who you are in this location or this situation is not who you are over here. There's so many things. Even your social feedback is going to be different. Maybe, like I said, you may have transitioned to another job or now you're a full time entrepreneur. Your titles have changed, right? And sometimes that shift, your identity has to renegotiate or readjust. Especially if you have no connection to the previous thing. If you are building on and taking a leap of faith, that's a little bit different, but it's still a form of identity recalibration. Simply because, say, if you are going from working a 9 to 5 to becoming a full time entrepreneur, that is a risk. It is adventurous, but it's faith based. When you become a full time entrepreneur, it is a very spiritual journey. I know you have seen that on social media. It is so true. It is very spiritual. You're using that paycheck coming every 2 weeks, and now it's not. So then, how do you readjust to that? How do you save money? How do you budget now? How hard are you going to go out to make sure you meet your numbers? Are you even planning or have a goal? Do you have a weekly goal of how much income you want to make? Do you have a monthly goal? Do you have a quarterly goal? What's your yearly goal? And then what are the steps you're going to do in order to accomplish that? I don't think a lot of people, especially young entrepreneurs, I don't think we think about that enough. Or you just, oh, I got my website. We got all of the proper things. We got our LLCs, we got all of our business stuff, right? But the structure, do we have that? Like even myself, like when I think about my podcast episodes, no, I don't make money from this, right? But I'm also like, if I want to start making money from it, what do I need to do? How often do I need to create content? How much do I need to post? Those are the things that I have to break down, right? And for me, I don't mind not making money from this simply because, again, like I said in my previous video, my goal is to help people. And if I can help you or help you see another perspective, give you insights. If you take one thing from me, I have done my job. I tell people the reason I do so many things because my goals or the things that connect everything is simply one, I want to make a positive impact. Two, I want to be an educator. Here, I get to do both. And again, the more I do it, the more I know money's going to come. So ultimately, what I'm saying about the entrepreneurship is going to change. So what used to work as an employee will not necessarily work as an entrepreneur unless you take that time management from the work, how hard they used to be on you, docking you down if you come back from lunch a minute late or whatever. Use that same process, that same thing over here in your business. So again, let me bring it back. Take the positives from being an employee, bring it over to your job or to your business, but also remember that it changes. When you are a full-time entrepreneur, it just changes. Your title change. You go from being a coordinator or whatever role to CEO, founding member, founder, owner, whatever title you want to use, right? All right, let's go back. The space between versions. Okay, so the discomfort of not being your old self. What does that mean? What is not being your old self? What did you love about your old self? Right? What is something about your old self that you used to have that you don't have today that you can't get back? Let's think about that. And then also know that this new self, you are not fully grounded in your new self because you don't know them quite yet because it just happened or it's happening actively. So you're constantly learning about yourself. You're constantly just adapting. Like that's the best word. Like adapting is the best word to describe everything we're talking about, right? Also know that it's always an in-between season. Always. I don't care where you are. Even when you say if you get a new job, you're going to be in that season where you're learning the company. Your first year, you just want to do everything right by the book because you're trying to learn. Once you're there a year or two, or you get the hang of it, maybe later in your first year, you start to add your own flair, your own sauce and seasoning to it, right? And so with that, that's that in between. And then you get to thrive and do your own thing. If you have that freedom, some jobs are very strict. You don't have that freedom. But ultimately what I'm saying is there's always going to be that in between time. So just letting things play out, putting yourself in positive situations, keep going. And I'm saying all of this as a person who's also going through it. So with this, I want to say I am not who I was, but I am not fully who I am becoming. I am not who I was, but I am not fully who I am becoming. And so that acknowledges both the past, you're in your present, and then your future. Because you know you're about to become something greater. I'm taking the steps toward the greater, right? And so I think that is a beautiful thing. But again, I always want to acknowledge all the varying emotions because you may be feeling unstable, sure, uncertain, all those things. That's that in between feeling. But you're going to get there. You're going to get there. And again, y'all probably seen this before too, but I want to say you do have to choose your hard. It's hard. It was hard staying in your old self. That's why you wanted to change. And now it's going to be hard into your new change because you're trying to navigate everything, right? And then think about control versus expansion. So sometimes identity calibration can feel like reduced visibility, reduced output, reduced validation. But in actuality, and internally, expansion is happening, growth is happening, right? And so I just want you all to remember that. And by the end of this, like, we're going to have a real conversation. Like, I'm going to drop my workbook. It's going to be a free workbook. You can just download it. And we're going to have these questions. Like, we're going to dive deeper into this because I know I'm not the only person going through real life changes, big changes, major changes. Some of you all just could have had a baby or You thought you were gonna have one child, you end up having two. That is life altering. Just having a child, period, is life altering. Some of y'all could have just gotten married. Like all these things, you are like all of those big changes, right? And so I'm asking, like, what identities are you all shedding? What roles no longer fit for you, you know? And what titles do you leave behind? And then I think a really important question, especially for high achievers, is who are you without constant productivity? You're not a robot. And I'm saying this to me. I'm talking to me. This is note to self. I'm not a robot. I'm a human with emotions, with feelings, with other goals, with other things, with other passions, right? So I can't operate like a clock. We're greater than that as humans. That's the one thing I was thinking about this last week. The one thing about humans and what makes us different from other creatures and mammals and all that stuff is that we have free will. Like we have the power to change our situation. Like I'm always use myself. I came from a low income background with people who did not go off to college or finish college or nothing like that. The fact that I finished one degree, got my second degree, about to finish a third degree, a lion can't do that. A lion, like you're just out and this is how you gotta find your food. Like your whole life is survival and like surviving and hunting, you know? You may play around here and there, but the fact that I can go skydiving and then go painting and then go to the national park, we have so many more options. You know, I can go on a lunch date, and so always remember that we can create our reality. All right, we have more power than we think. So I want to empower you to go beyond. It's so easy to think in a negative. It's so easy. We always have our worst case scenario, but start to think about the best case scenario. Start to think about the positive. What are you learning from this? How are you growing? And again, sometimes some beautiful transformations require isolation. Like we can look at a butterfly. It starts off as a caterpillar and it goes in this cocoon in isolation and then it comes out beautiful. Start to think of yourself in those ways too. Like examples, analogies, all that stuff is great. Figure out a way to apply it to your life. Okay? So let's move on to cognitive overload. When your brain is carrying too much, y'all. This could be for entrepreneurs, families, whomever, whatever. Cognitive overload happens when the demands on your brain exceed your processing capacity. Okay. So it shows up as mental fatigue. It shows up as task paralysis. It can show up as feeling left behind, emotional sensitivity, difficulty making simple decisions like, what am I going to wear today? Or should I wear this sock or that sock? Or should I use a pen or a pencil? Like that, those small things become overwhelming. So that's when you know, okay, I need to stop and breathe. We always need to stop and breathe, y'all. Like we need to be breathing multiple times a day. And so when we think of a high functioning person, specifically women, I know a lot of high functioning women, and I need us to stop operating in that. I really do. Because it's causing more harm to us internally, whether we want to admit it or not. That's why so many of us are gaining weight. Our cortisol levels are so high. We're so stressed. That's how autoimmune disease comes up. It comes up in reproductive diseases. And I'm going deeper. Some of y'all may be like, oh, I didn't know I was going to talk about this on this podcast. No, when I told y'all I am bringing in all of my experiences here because the female reproductive system is very important to me. And so again, as I'm doing research in that area as well, when I kept saying, "Oh, I have other research," that's part of my other research. I'm learning so many things about how these things takes a toll on our bodies and our emotions in so many different ways that we don't realize that we're just going and we're just trying to get things done. We're trying to accomplish things, but we don't realize how much of a toll it's taking on us. not just physically, but again, internally, emotionally, psychologically. And so, yes, you can still produce, you can still execute, but balance it, right? Because we may have a lot of mental tabs. I have a lot of mental and physical tabs. Like the amount of tabs that I have up in my phone right now, let me see. My phone tabs, 487 tabs, y'all. I don't know if y'all can see. Where is that showing? I don't know if y'all saw when it first came on. 400. Yeah, ridiculous. Ridiculous. So again, I'm not saying any of this just to say it. Like I'm living it, I'm growing through it. There's parts of this that I've overcame already, and there's other parts that I'm currently in. So I feel like I'm able to give some advice, but I'm also taking my own advice. Because I thought about this in depth, as you can tell. Like I've thought about so many different aspects because it's important. Again, we need to have these conversations. We need language. We need to feel understood because again sometimes a lot of us we're in our head, we're thinking we're alone, we're the only ones going through this, and we're not. We just are maybe going through it at different times in our lives with different situations. Like I said, you could be in your dissertation, you could be in graduate school as a whole, you could just be in school, you could be trying to run a business, be an entrepreneur. You may have family responsibilities. Again, you may have a new family, babies, marriage, relocating, friendships, financial situations, new jobs, quitting a job. Like people think quitting a job is easy. You know how much planning that it takes, how intentional you have to be. I'm sure if it was so easy to quit a job, don't you think everybody would have quit their job today and not go back to nobody's job? And I don't know, like saying quitting it just sounds, it doesn't sound right to me. I think leaving a situation that no longer serves you. And we have to, I'm going to talk about that another episode, but that's also important. We always talking about leaving relationships. What about your job that no longer serves you? Leaving a location that no longer serves you. We can't just keep staying in situations because, for whatever reasons, I want us to understand that's also a form of abuse. It may not be physical abuse, but there's so many other forms, and we have to get out of that. So, let me focus, stay on topic. So, so we have so many different things happening at once. Again, you got all your tabs open, your mental tabs, your physical tabs, all of that. And individually addressing so many aspects of your life can be easy or may be easy. If I just focus on being a student, cool. I just focus on being a parent, cool. I can do this, cool. Entrepreneurship, whatever. But when they're all happening at once, it becomes heavy. It becomes overwhelming. It's just like everybody wants something from me right now. I need me right now, right? And so the illusion of how should I handle this, right? It could be anything. Just because you can handle it doesn't mean you should, right? You shouldn't have to carry it all alone. So this is where solutions come in. This is where I talked about earlier for those again in their dissertation or doing any homework, like have your times and your blocks for writing or doing homework, scheduling time, all those things, saying I'm in my focus season and learn to sequence. Sequencing is not quitting. It's not leaving. Slowing down is not failing. It is called prioritization. You are prioritizing what's important in this season. It is okay. It is okay. All right. So I just slightly want to go back through everything again because transitional grief, what is it and why nobody talks about it? It's the emotional processing that happens when something changes, even when it's a positive change. Identity recalibration. who am I now? Who I was before is not who I am now. And I am in that in between season of trying to figure that out because I'm not the old person, but I'm not quite where I want to be or who I'm becoming because I know I deserve more. I am more, right? The change happened because I wanted more. And then we got the cognitive overload when your brain is carrying too much. So you may be scrolling through social media a lot. You may be on several different apps. How many tabs is on your phone? Not just in your Safari or your whatever search engine you use, but also just on your screen. Do you have games up? Are you on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube? Cancel, swipe that stuff off. Swipe up for those who have an iPhone. Sometimes silence. Let's get back into meditation, slowing our minds down, doing one thing at a time. That's another thing that has been harder for me because I am such a wanderer and I have so many interests that I'm used to doing multiple things at once. So now that I'm primarily focused on writing my dissertations, it is hard because I'm like, wow, I'm so used to doing all these things and now I have to just focus on this one thing. But I am learning that in order to be really good at something and to really master it, you just have to lock in. That's the easiest way for me to say it. You have to focus. You have to focus and understand that you can no longer spread yourself thin, right? Because we don't think about cognitive overload being how many of y'all are in generalist roles where you know a little bit about everything and how hard it is sometimes to bounce between different tasks. I remember when I was working in residential education, I would have a one on one with one of my staff members that I was supervising. Then I would jump to handling a facilities issue. Then I would jump to a committee meeting. Then I will jump to, oh, somebody broke a fire exit sign, or excuse me, a exit sign. And then I had to focus on being on call. So your mind is bouncing between all these different tasks without time to process. And then you wonder why sometimes you are disassociated or you feel cold when addressing situations or numb addressing situations because you have learned to remove your emotion. You just have to go with it. And in some jobs, that's great. But again, what about the long term effects? How does that even show up in your personal life? Sometimes I think I said this in a previous video that I try to keep my all my lives separate, but there's moments where they have to come together because what you do in your professional life sometimes impact how you move in your personal life. And so now you may be distant, cold to your family and the people who love you so much because the job that you do requires you to be stiff, requires you to just kind of roll with the punches, requires you to just keep going. Even when things are hard, just keep going. Just keep going. Everybody does it. Like they kind of, it's almost like a hazing perspective. This is a part of the job. This is what we have to do. And yes, it's a part of the job, but that doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it okay. And when you have people coming from different backgrounds and have different lived experiences, that can impact them in different ways. And so I'm saying all of this to say, like that overload is real. That your brain is carrying too much and you're jumping from checking emails to answering phone calls to reviewing applications to doing this to doing that. Like, breathe. And then you have your own personal things you have going on. Then when you go home, you have to do all of that. You have to clean up, cook, do your own homework, or, take care of your children, whatever it is. So, all that mental overload, breathe it out, write it out. Again, do your parking lot list. Just write out everything you want to do, need to do, and just kind of what's number one, what's number two, how long is it going to take me? Am I okay with this timeline? This is where SMART goals come in. Yeah, you have to have a specific, measurable, an attainable goal. So yeah, I definitely want to say transitional grief says I miss this, right? Identity recalibration says who am I becoming? Cognitive overload says this is heavy. But the underlying message is that growth is not always glamorous. Traveling is not always glamorous. Change is not always glamorous. Some things require quiet restructuring, moments of silence, moments of strategic planning, moments of just focus, having on those blinders and just going. Because when you focus, you're going to get to the next level faster because you don't have outside noise. Sometimes you just need to block out all the noise, right? We talk about noise cancellation headphones. What about noise cancellation headphones or just noise cancellation in your life? We need that sometimes, right? And so, whew, I also want to say something around seasons happen all the time. We all have our own seasons. The weather has the seasons. Even if you don't live in a place that has four weather style seasons, like if you're in Florida, you still have hurricane season for half the year. That's still a season, right? You have your cold fronts, you have your hot front. Like that is still seasons. Knowing that everybody can't come with you every season. That is a harsh and hard reality, but it is true. It's so true. It's so true. It's hard. Anybody that you know who's extremely successful had to have moments of just focusing and locking in. And so, again, what I'm going to leave for you is I just want to leave some other words. My goal for this podcast was to be reflective and honest. As you can tell, even the smile is out of my face because I am in this. I felt some of these things already, like I said earlier. It's about leveling up, it's about transitioning, it's about starting new chapters. And we don't talk about the emotional weight that it comes with sometimes. And so it's okay when you're building something new, when you're reinventing yourself, all of the things. This episode is for you. I know I said this too late in the episode, but I don't care what new season you're in, what you're building, relocating, writing. I don't care. This episode is for you. When you lose something, I don't care if you chose it, if it makes you better, if it was necessary. Again, the complexities of it, that bittersweet feeling, we have to stop judging ourselves for that. You can say, oh, I wanted this, I prayed for this, I chose this, I meditated for this. And again, our nervous systems are not quite there yet, but we're going to get there. Again, adjustment. Because right now our bodies feel disturbed. We're going to adjust. You did not make a wrong decision. You made a decision for a reason. Whatever that reason is, that is for you to go through. And again, please get the workbook in my description. You know, who you were when you were busy and needed may not be who you are right now when you're in your peak focus time. Right? So let's talk about consolidating, refining, shedding noise, understanding that who you are without constantly producing. Who are you when you're not immediately available? Who are you without that title that validated you? Recalibration feels uncomfortable because you are shedding old patterns. Those old patterns are dissolving. But you have to remove these things before expansion. It's required, you know? And I know you don't want to hurt people or disappoint people or feel misunderstood or sitting around with your laptop all day. You're not unraveling. You're just recalibrating. And that recalibration requires stillness. It requires structure. It requires grace. It requires saying no sometimes. It's heavy sometimes. But on the other side of it all, you're going to be a greater you. Knowing, like I said earlier, that everyone can come with you in this season. Every season of your life comes with different intensities. Prioritizing yourself and focusing does not make you selfish. It makes you intentional. If you are transitioning right now, give yourself permission to adjust. You are allowed to grow. You are allowed to focus. You are allowed to grieve. You are allowed to evolve. You are not alone in this process. You're not alone. I talked a lot today, y'all. I had a lot to get off my chest. Again, I know I'm not alone on this. I hope I helped you all on this because I had to sort out my own feelings. I was like, hey, I need to figure this out. And here I am. And so, thank you all so much for listening today. Thank you all so much for just riding with me, regardless of how often I post or whatever. Thank you for valuing my contributions to the world, my voice, my thoughts, because they are up here. And I told myself this year, 2026, I'm getting them out. Like they're not, I'm not going to just continue to have that cognitive overload. I'm just going to do what I can and in ways that feel right for me and to me without judgment and without worrying about other people's judgment. So, thank you all so much for listening. I hope you learned a lot. I am so grateful. I'm so honored. And again, I just hope that I helped somebody today because I know I helped me. So, thank you all so much. Please follow me on Instagram at AJD.consulting. Also, you can catch me on threads under the same handle. I appreciate y'all. Bye.